Jesus was born in 6 BC. His mother's name was Mary and his dad's name was Joseph. They thought that Mary was impregnated because of immaculate conception. Now, when Jesus was born, Herod the Great was in control. And Herod the Great figured out that Jesus would be all-powerful, and so he had this law put in place where every child that was a male under the age of 2 would have to be killed. But his dad Joseph figured out that news before it actually came to fruition, and so he got Jesus and Mary out in time, and they ended up moving to Egypt. Now, when Jesus grew up and then he started becoming all-powerful, he led in Galilee, Judea, and Jerusalem. But those cities today would be compared to metropolitan cities now. People were still malnourished and had money problems, but people were also very wealthy as well. Back then it would be aristocratic leaders, but today it would be politicians and big money earners.
Hello, and welcome. Today we are here with Mr. Dinglet to talk about Jesus. Do you have any questions?
Yes, preacher. What made Jesus so influential?
There are many things that made Jesus such an influential person. One of the things was that he taught people how to be kind to one another, and he also taught people how to be forgiving. He also taught through his actions, which was one of the many great things that he did. Anything else?
What were some pros and cons of Jesus Christ?
One of the pros of Jesus that he taught people how to be charitable to each other and how to act kind to one another. But one of the cons was that as he got more people following him, it caused a lot of the kings in the area to feel threatened by his power, and they were feeling that he could overthrow them. So, what they did was they crucified him, which also ensued many holy wars. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, sir. Do you think Jesus Christ would be an influential leader as well today?
Yes, I do. I believe that he would have to carry out his actions only on a greater scale to match the culture of society better today. But I believe that he would be very successful if he was to come back. Thank you very much, Saul, for coming on today. And everyone at home, God bless. Today, I baptized a young man whose name was Jesus. I then realized that I was in the presence of God's Son. Journal entry number 2. Today, Jesus was walking around Jerusalem, and he came across people peddling in front of the temple. Jesus chased them away and told them not to disturb the house of God. Journal entry 3. Today, I witnessed a miracle. Jesus passed a blind beggar who asked him for help. Jesus kneeled before the beggar and placed his hands on their face. When he removed his hands, the beggar proclaimed he could see once more.
We're gonna have a competition.
To see how many facts we can say about Stalin!
Stalin was the head of the Central Committee of the Central Communist Party.
He grew up in an abusive household with an alcoholic father.
Stalin had 2 joined toes on his left foot.
Stalin was in a horse-drawn carriage accident, which left his left arm shorter than his right.
Stalin was an intellectual. He excelled in fields such as propaganda distribution.
Make sure to tune in to 60 Minutes tonight, where we welcome author Jared Breeze to talk about his New York Times bestseller, Stalin. So Jared, in your book you're talking about Stalin. Could you tell me about him a little bit?
Some basic background. He was the dictator of the Soviet Union in the mid-1920s and died in 1953.
Very good. So in your book you mentioned Stalin is a kind of cruel leader. Could you tell me more information about that?
Yeah, he ruled by terror and didn't sacrifice people, killed millions of people. Is just known as a bad man.
Alright, now you mentioned that he was a cruel leader, and I know that it's hard to find some positives in that, but could you tell me a little bit about what's positive about his leadership style?
He was a very good industrial and military superpower at that time.
Great. Now, in your opinion, do you think that Stalin would be successful today?
No, I do not. I think his leadership style would not fit in today's society. It's many would disagree.
Makes sense to me. Make sure to check out Jared Breeze's book on Stalin. It's a New York Times bestseller. So, Grandpa, we're learning about Stalin this week in history class, and I thought since you were around back then, you could tell me more about it.
Yes, I'm very old. Old enough to remember that, unfortunately. Well, Stalin was awful. He was awful to his people. I don't know if he meant to be, but he was. He took so much of my family's crops. Your great-grandfather was a potato farmer. We had almost nothing to eat. Over the winter, sometimes we didn't know if we were going to make it. My brother, Nikita, he tried to organize a rebellion against Stalin, and he and all of his friends were put into gulags. Once he was gone, I never saw him again. Never knew what happened to him. Don't know if he's alive. He was older than me, so he's probably not alive anymore.
What about Great Aunt Sarah?
Sarah, well, unfortunately, she didn't see motherhood. She went out one winter, she was so thin, she didn't eat hardly anything. She didn't even like potatoes. That's all we had. She only got scraps, basically. So she was very thin. One winter, she went outside to get firewood, because my father, made her go out. She didn't come back. The next morning, we discovered her. She was as solid as a frozen lake.
How old was she?
Oh, how old was she? I believe she was 9 or 10 years old. Oh, it's not worth it.
No.
Having equal everything for everyone, that's what Stalin wanted. He wanted everyone to have the same things.
Socialism.
Yes. It works on paper, doesn't work in Russia.